Hey everybody, thanks for joining us here today. This is Nicole with Topaz, and we are super excited to have Mr. Tony Sweet back with us today. Hey Tony.
Hey, what's up, Nicole?
Hello, thanks for being here. Tony is here to present a second session of fine art nature photography and Topaz plugins. I'll tell you a little bit more about Tony here in just a second, but let me give you some of the technical information on the session while we look at some of Tony's amazing images here.
Thank you.
First off, if you're having any trouble with the screen freezing up or anything like that, just go ahead and minimize and maximize your GoToWebinar viewer, and that will usually resolve the issue. Also, if you're having any trouble with your sound cutting in and out, usually logging off, then logging back in, shutting down anything that might be taking up a lot of memory like flash on your system, then that will usually resolve those issues. Also, be sure to stick around to the end of the session. I will be giving away 2 complete full Topaz bundles to 2 attendees at that time. So I'll be pulling from those attendees and announcing that at the end of the session, along with a coupon code specific to Tony's webinar. So with that, let me tell you a little bit more about Tony. Tony is a highly recognized professional nature photographer whose work has been published worldwide in every medium. He is a Nikon Legend Behind the Lens, lecturer, co-owner, operator of the Visual Artistry Workshop Series, and he is represented by Getty Images. He is also the author of 5 books in his fine art photography series and a co-producer of 5 instructional DVDs. That is definitely the shortened version of his bio, but I want to go ahead and turn it over to Tony as quickly as possible so we go ahead and take a look at some of his amazing images. So let me give you the screen, Tony.
Okay, I think I have it. Welcome, everybody. It's great to be back in Topaz land. I want to start with a classic shot from the Smoky Mountains, our last workshop venue. When I see a scene like this with the dark foreground, sun's not quite up yet, although it is hitting back here, you have a properly exposed sky and very, very dark foreground. And to me, that basically sends me to Topaz. So I'm going to go down to here and go to Topaz Labs, and the crown jewel plugin, in my opinion, is Topaz Adjust 5, which I'm going to go to probably on almost all of these images in one way or another. Now, let me get the screen out of here. There we go. Always hit Reset All when you start. Hit it more than once to make sure. Now, let me move this window out of the way. Okay, there we go. Hold on, I got to move this. There we go. Okay, now, the first thing that I do here is Classic Collection, and you have all the presets. Just to show you, if you click on a preset, you can see them at the very upper left window, but it's kind of small. And what I try to do in this case is click on the image just to see the presets, then hit the down arrow on your keyboard, and just scroll through them in a hurry just so you get a sense of what's out there. I tend to like to work in the right-hand column in most cases, you know. So I'll just hit Reset All again, and we'll begin right with global adjustments. Now there's a great little pattern here under adaptive exposure where you basically create this line just very quickly, something like this. And now that's kind of roughing it in. I'll fine-tune that in a second. But in general, that gets you right in the ballpark, like pretty quick on this kind of image. And you can either hit the before button to see that gargantuan change, or click on the image, before, after. Much quicker, a lot less real estate, rather than going all the way up here. You know, you just click on the image. There you go. Now, just to fine-tune that a bit, that's kind of okay where it's at. Let me see, maybe around here, and then pull the region up a notch. Just fine-tuning, these settings here, and maybe a little up this way. There we go. Soften that up a little bit. Now we'll be able to paint these clouds back to a more normal state, which we'll do a little bit later. But let's go to our color, just to bring out the greens a bit more. And we'll say adaptive exposure. We'll bring that up another third or so to about there. See it? Greens come out a bit more. And then we'll bring the saturation up another small percentage just to make the greens a bit richer. Now at this point, we're going to go to our, don't tell me, local adjustments. There you go. And we will brush out the clouds. It's very simple. We'll pick a moderate opacity, like around 20% is a good starting place. Brush size seems about right, maybe a little large, Pull that back a notch. Hardness is always 0 when I do it, and edgeware, the default is fine. We'll paint the clouds back to a more natural state. Take some of the artificiality out from there. Now let me juice up the opacity a bit more so we're not doing this all day. There we go. So you can see the original sky come back in a bit easier. There you go. And then you can paint over top of the limbs, soften them up a little bit. And now our sky's pretty much back. You could fine-tune this forever, but that's the basic idea. The other thing is, if I want to make this a bit brighter in here, a bit lighter, we can say dodge. Okay, this is pretty cool, because now you have the overall strength. And I will begin this at a much lower opacity, say around 20 or so. That's kind of where I start this. Brush size is a bit large. I want to hit these small areas, so we'll pull the brush size back. Where is it? Where is it? Okay. Pull the brush size back a little bit to here, and then we'll, is that enough? Sure. And then we'll brighten up. See it? See it? Very, very subtle. Brighten up in here. See it come in? See it? And then, once we've done that, we can also bring in the trees. It's just wide open. You can really fine-tune things very nicely like this. And bring the road out a bit more. One more. One more. There we go. One more. Now, this is what we've done here. This shows you what we can do. I'm losing my mouse here for some reason. Okay. Okay. That's 100%, and then we'll bring it back down to a more reasonable thing. So you can move this slider around to affect what you've done. And if we okay this out, which we're going to do, okay it out, there we go, okay, there we go. Now we can look at the background copy, or maybe our history. And we'll go from our beginning shot. It's a long trip, isn't it? And then adjust 5, and then we brought it in all the way to here, at the end, I'm sorry. So it went from here to basically here. That's one way to bring in your foreground like that. And this is the classic move that I always do with Topaz when I have this type of situation. So let's go to, let's get out of this. And I'm not going to save that. We'll let that go. And we'll go to Greenbrier. Greenbrier is a phenomenal part of the Smokies. And at a certain time of day, a certain time of year, you get incredible reflections if you have a clear blue sky, for the most part, and some color in the trees. And the color is reflected from across the stream into the water, which is in the shade. The subject must be in the shade. And then the water gets reflected. The color gets reflected back down into the water. And that's how we get this classic Smoky shot. And on this image, we're going to go back into our favorite go-to situation here. Adjust 5. And this will have some presets that we're going to use this time. Because I believe this is kind of a warm tonality for the most part. And we do have, if you look down far enough, we have warm tones. And warm tone 1 and warm tone 2. Big difference. It appears that warm tone 2 brings in a little more of the streaks, which I like, which will also accentuate a bit later. But we'll get to that when we get to it. So this is all we need it for. We're pretty much here. We're saying warm tone, and then we'll go over here and then fine tune what we're doing. So once you pick your preset, you're not set in stone. You can go across to the right side and start fine-tuning your adjustments here. And we'll just move this up a little bit. And then the regions are pretty much, it's pretty much moving the sliders around. You should have an idea of what you want. You can always guess. Guessing is always fun. But you might want to have an idea every so often and then find a way to achieve it. And we'll move this up a little bit. Watch it come in. There, see it? See it pop in there a bit? And then we'll pull the brightness back just a little bit. Okay. Now we'll go into our color to affect that just a bit. we'll go to our adaptive saturation. And again, just playing around, seeing what's going on. We can go a little more here. Okay, now we have some color. Now to our local adjustments, because what I want to do here, as I'm looking at this is too dark. That's a bit dark right in here. And I could maybe tone this down just a hair. So we'll go into to dodge. How about brush out? Let's try that. And then opacity, we'll bring that back a little bit and see if we can brush it a little more up, a little higher here. There we go. And we're going to bring that in a bit. See it lighten up? Lightening up here, etc. This is a great feature with a local. You can go in here with a brush and you can do all these things here. Brush out, dodge, which gives you, we'll get into that later, but these are all very, very useful, very overlooked, actually. So, and then we'll brighten up this just a shade, see it? When you use a Wacom tablet like I am, it is pressure sensitive, so you can barely touch this stuff and affect the change. I'm very, very lightly going over this here. And that's kind of what we have from Greenbrier. It's important to realize that the upfront work is what's important in software like this, like the great Topaz suite. You want to learn what the software can do so that you know where to go when you want something done. Like I said, it is fun to guess, but it's also a little more fun not to guess and to know what you're doing. And you got to put the upfront work in to see, just to know what's there. So we start here, and we wound up with what it almost looked like, a little more warmth in here. Again, beginning and the final one. A lot of times, small moves are really where it's at. I'm not a big fan of very dramatic moves in photography. Not anymore. I used to be. But now it's all very subtle, very small move, because a lot of small moves equal one very big move. So I tend to keep things very slight, as you will see. And we're not going to save that. We're going to go on to, now, there's two images in this collection here that were specifically requested from the last webinar, and the one that we didn't get quite recorded. So this one was one of them. It's infrared, and I'm not sure if you're an infrared fan. You may want to consider being one, because it's another world. It's a lot of fun. And if you research infrared, you'll see that there's very many looks. They have color infrared. They have over processed, where it's got this huge glow around it, or it's razor sharp. You know, it's all up to you. But to me, there's a certain romance in infrared that is achieved by softening it, which equates to, if any of you even know what film is anymore, when you process film in the darkroom, the wet darkroom, you would over-process infrared, and that would give you a glow, which we can do now in software. The last time we did this, well, again, first thing, reset all, and hit it more than once. All that I want to do is add softness. So the first time I did this, it was very laborious. I had too much stuff going on. But now I know that you just apply what you want. So we want a glow. So we'll add that. And these are your main buttons to play with right here, softness and diffusion. You can push that up, bring that back. That's in the ballpark. Now watch the difference. Razor sharp, a little bit of glow. Let's go a little more, make it a little more dramatic. A little more diffusion. And here's before, and here's, there we go. You still see detail everywhere. There's details in the leaves, details in the road. It's there. It's just glowing. And that to me is the soul of infrared, to be honest. Transition, it's very subtle. It's a little sharper here. And I'm not quite sure what it does. So I'll leave it where it was, or thereabouts. Now, we're going to go into our local adjustments, because now what I want to do is lighten the road and open up these black holes just a little bit, not a lot. So we're going to say dodge, and keep an eye on this overall strength setting because it's pretty far out. And we'll bring this back to around, maybe a little more, like around 30. And a little smaller brush, and then we'll lighten up. See it? And then pick the brush up. When you set it down again, you increase the opacity, and it gets brighter. And we'll do that here. Pick the brush up, open that up a little bit, open this up a notch, and I want to bring the road up. The main thing here is what I want to do is to open this up right here. Let's try one more. I think we made it through this gauntlet here. And a little brighter in here. And a little brighter. Anyway, here's the overall strength. This is what we did. Push it all the way up. See, that's what we did. And we can pull this back to stop it anywhere along there to get what we want. This is with nothing. And then we just, see the difference? Just softened it up, made it a bit brighter. This adds more to the mood than the dark version did. Now these are all, I guess the word is in sync. These holes here, these aren't black holes. They fit with the overall visual feel of the image. And one more quick thing here. Notice that I can't go to my arrow tool right here. I'm still in the brush. So I can't press on it to see the before and after. You've got to close the local adjustment window. And then we have our pointer back. Then we can say before and after. And that's basically it, folks, for infrared. I mean, I use this technique a lot when I want to add glow to infrared. It's very easy. It's very controllable. And it gives me what I want, which is that's the whole point, right? Okay, we'll just we'll say okay here so we can see it. Watch it come in. There it is. And now we'll move on from that. You're going to look at that for a second. And we will send this away to the ether. I can do it again. It's very easy. Okay, our wagon in Cades Cove in Tennessee. This is an often shot, often photographed subject. It's still good, but how do you make it different? What do you do? People generally stand outside of this this opening and shoot in at eye level or a little bit lower for drama. I've done it so many years, I'm getting kind of like, okay, what's next? So having the camera up near the ceiling at 14 millimeter, when you change perspective that much, you get these large lines, very graphic, that lead you right in to the back corner. Your eyeball goes right in here. The point of this image, to me, I want to do black and white, first of all, with Black and White Effects Pro 2.1. But the ultimate point of the subject is right here. That will remain the brightest part of the image. That's where your eye is going to go. And we're going to affect that, and I will try to show you how. Topaz Labs, and don't tell me, there it is. And here we go. Now, we're going to hit our reset button, and that's where we start. The first thing I do, and again, this is cool. This is cool. In the new Black and White Effects, this is what you have. It's preparing the previews. Now, what it means by that, let's do it while we're young. There we go. Is that these are larger previews now. You can see the name, Cool Tone Black Border, matches the name on the bottom, so you can see them one at a time. So here I can focus on each image and look at it. For those who like seeing everything at once, this is a great new feature, just to peruse what's there. You have this checkerboard up here, or this tic-tac-toe grid. If you click on that, there it is. They all show up, which I think is extremely cool. You can get a great overview of everything. If anything pops out at you, you can click right on it, and you're there. So for those who like working, I like the warm tones here a lot. For those who like seeing things en masse, as it were, that's how you do it. If you want to scrutinize one at a time, you just run right through here and just move the mouse down. Now, what we're going to do now is, the first thing that I do is actually pick the filter. So all that I look at is red, green, or blue. The reason that I skip orange and yellow is because they're kind of a version of red. Not that big a difference in most cases. So I'll check my red filter, and then the green, and then the blue, and then select one. Whatever you do is your business. This is how I do things, just to speed up the process. So we'll go to green. We'll start with that. As soon as you select one, you have this box opens up here. And we're going to move the hue up a little bit with the point remaining that this is the ultimate goal of this image, that very bright face of the wagon right there. So we're kind of in the ballpark here, and then we'll push this up a little bit. There we go. A little bit darker. Now starting to come out a little more. Now we'll go to our basic exposure and play with what's here a little bit. Do the contrast up just a notch. See it darken? This stands out a bit more. And we're going to add a little brightening. Not much. Watch it. See it? Just added a little bit more on the outside there. And then we'll go right down. The way this works is just, the top-down flow is very cool in Topaz. You just work right down the line. Adaptive exposure. We're going to make that, bring that back a little bit, somewhere around here. And then our regions, we'll just play around with that. Again, these are things you just move around and see what happens. Okay, now we're talking. So we're going to take this and we're going to save it. Here's our before and after. A little more drama. So we're good here. So we're going to OK that out. We're going to put our detail 3 on this layer right here. So now it's filter and Topaz Labs, and we'll say detail 3. And what I generally use on this kind of shot, always hit reset when you come somewhere new. Creative detail collection is tremendous, and the one that I find the most useful, not in all cases, again, it's all image dependent, is enhancement 1, and then I'll tend to boost up the detail just a little bit. Now it looks a bit crazy right now, but just bear with me. A little over the top, but this is the point here. We're going to say OK. Now we have it on a separate layer. Now I find, in my experience, that any filter seems to work, don't ask me why, seems to work extremely well at 2/3. I know it sounds crazy. If I pull this back 2/3, look at the difference. From here, it gives you just a touch. See that? Watch the detail come in right here with it off and when it's on. That's at 2/3. If you go to full opacity, it's a bit hot for me. It just doesn't look right. But for some reason, it's some kind of universal law or something. I'm not sure what it is. Cosmic, whatever. 2/3 seems to work. And that's where we are. So now our history says we're from here to here, and then at the end, a little crunch at the end, a little sharpness, a little sharp punch. And that's Arcades Cove Wagon. It's actually from a place called Cable Mill in the Smokies. Now this next image, let me get out of here real quick, and we'll field any questions you have later. I see them coming in, so just hang with us here, and I'll just keep talking as long as they keep me online here. We'll let that go. And now we're in our single tree. This was also requested from the previous webinar because it illustrated how you separate, like in the first image. A little bit different here, though. How you separate these tonalities that are obviously merged. You can't tell them apart. They kind of get lost. Merging in general is not a good thing. It's often a bad thing. You want your subjects as separated as possible. So I will go into my my workhorse plug-in right here. Adjust 5 is like, it's unbelievable, and I use it a lot. We're going to hit our reset all, hit it more than once. And we're going to begin. Classic collection, but I tend to want to work over here. I'll pick presets on occasion, and you can see they look at the top left. You can scroll through them real quick. Some nice options, but I tend to want to do this on my own. So I will say reset all. And I wonder if we can close this. There's a button right here that closes those presets. Now we'll reset all again, and we'll start. Now, I'll go into our global adjustments, and we'll do our classic, I think it's a classic move. We're pretty much up here, and then regions at about 13 or so. This is a really fantastic jumping off point for this. And the contrast can be somewhere around here. Look at that. So now we're looking at image before. Already we're here. Already we're here. You can see the green separated. It's tough, but you can see them. The tonality change here. And we'll go to brightness, and we'll bring that up just a notch. Let me see. There you go. Now you can see it better. Brighten the greens up, separation, beautifully shaped tree, and some nice clouds. Perfect for Topaz. We're going to go down to details now, because I will normally sharpen with 3, details 3, but for like minor stuff like this where I just want a little bit of a punch, I'll do it inside of the details plugin here, with the details tab in the plugin. And I'll push the strength up just a notch. We'll double it actually. There you go. A lot of detail in the clouds. Everything's razor sharp. Just bear with me here. It's a little over the top. That's what we want for what's coming up. And then we'll go to detail boost. We'll pull that back a notch. You're always constantly moving things back and forth. Back and forth. We'll go to our color tab, and we'll say adaptive saturation, and we'll bring that up just a notch. Not a whole lot. There you go. Brighten the greens a bit, open this up a bit more, and then our regions are probably fine. You can like play around with these, but normally it's not that big a deal in this case. And then my favorite procedure here is diffusion. It's just spectacular. We'll bring our softness up a bit, right to about here, and then bring our diffusion back. There you go, somewhere around there. And I think that's, yeah, that's our basic deal. There's before. Look at that. It's always a shocker to me. Yeah, how this stuff works. Look at that. It's like night and day. Happens in a matter of minutes. It didn't happen by accident. Like I say, you've got to go in, play around with the software, find out what controls work for you within your workflow, and write them down, memorize them. I'm just doing the same half dozen things over and over again. You know, you find what works for you. Now we'll say OK. Look at it on the big board here. Watch it come in. Wow, what a difference. So we'll send off our single tree into oblivion here. Sorry. See you later. Oh, no. There it goes. All right. We'll come back to this in a second. We have a car from Cuba. This is spectacular. Cuba is the largest outdoor classic car museum on the planet. I'm not kidding. If you haven't been there, it's get there before it gets westernized. It's pretty amazing. Now, this to me is flat. Okay, so we're going to come in here, and there's a great feature in Detail 3. We're in Topaz Labs and Detail 3. What we're going to do here, now let's have a look at the Cuba Car here, which is a tremendous subject. It's a good place to photograph. But what they have in the stylized detail collection is, if you look very slowly, oh, there it is, HDR1, HDR2, and we'll pick one. I actually like enhancement 1 for this. So we're done. I'm pretty much here. That's what I want. We're going to begin with this in Topaz Adjust. Okay, now, just to make sure, I'm going to add a layer. Although I believe Adjust does that, but I just want to make sure. You can always delete a blank layer later. But if you write over your original file and don't save it as, it's gone. So you're always better off doing some redundancy just to make sure that you don't miss. So now we're going to go into Adjust. We go to Filter, and my main baby right here, Adjust 5. Now, and we're going to do our thing. We're going to hit reset all first, hit it again to make sure, and open our presets. Where did they go? They went over here. We bring them back. A little icon right there, that arrow right there, closes them up, opens them up. When you want more real estate, you close them up. So again, we're going to go over here and start fresh. Let me reset all just to make sure to hit anything. And then global adjustments and adaptive exposure. And we'll do our, this is the same thing, folks. You're seeing that I'm doing the same basic maneuvers for the most part, over and over. The reason being is because they work. Contrast, we may take up a little higher. Let me see. Let me see here. Let's bring that back just a notch. Okay, soften the car up a little bit. And we'll go to our details and we'll push it up a little more because we have something in store for you. Okay, see how the crunch came in there? Let's look at it before. And so far, it's turning in, it's taking a single shot into a true HDR image, which is kind of far out, you know. So we did our strength, and now this is the secret sauce right here. We're in finishing touches, and back into, guess what? Uh-oh, diffusion. I just love this thing. And we'll say softness, we'll take that up just a notch, not a whole lot. See what it did? 2 points. 0.02 points. Put that in there. We'll bring our diffusion back a little bit. There we go. Tones down the softness a bit. And our transition, I'm still not sure what it does, but I'll push it up and see what it does. Okay. Come back here. There you go. A little more stuff going on up here. Now that's the basic deal. Now the question is there too much crunch going in because of all the detail and et cetera, et cetera? And the answer might be yeah. So what if I decided it is? I'll go into local adjust and I'll hit brush out. And I'll say opacity, bring it back quite a bit. Brush size, right about there is good. And then we'll just paint out the detail. See it soften up? Let's go over here, especially back here. See it? You can see it down here in the window, what's happening at the bottom right. That's our mask. And we'll just tone this down and tone down these harsh chunks coming out of the wall. Cuba is falling apart, but it's got a few more centuries to go, or one major earthquake. It's pretty amazing. And we're going to hit, that's pretty much what I'm looking for, right about there. So we'll hit OK, and we'll get a look at this. And there's our shot. There's our final HDR shot. And did we need this? You can pitch it, or you can flatten it. It doesn't matter. But our history will show you a very dramatic change in the vehicle. Look at that. It's another world. And then detail 3 to make it a little bit over the top. And then we tone it down, put a little glow on it, and accentuate the detail. And that's our Cuba Car. Now, so let's say goodbye to this. Send her back to Habana. See you in January. Oh no. Okay. This was on the Topaz Facebook page, and there have been several requests to see what went on here. And what I found to be a great challenge was that Nicole mentioned that I should be ready to do this. And I did use 3 or 4 different software plugins on this image, but it was a great challenge for me to be able to go into only Topaz, except for the final ending move, and do what took 3 other plugins to do. So I took that as a challenge, and let me run it by you and see what you think. So this is our beginning, and it's all done, guess where? Right here, all of it, except for the final move. So reset all, hit it twice, and we're going to start. I'm going to start fresh, no collection. I'm going to start over here right on the right side. And we're doing our same basic move. If you learn anything here, please learn this. This gets you in the ballpark really quick. Now this may be an exception to the rule, as you'll see in a second. See, contrast is normally higher. There we go. And then we'll bring our brightness down. This is one of the secret moves. We'll really intensify the drama. There you go. Look at that. In what, 30 seconds? So we're here to here. This is almost a ball game. So we're going to go into color next. Make sure the greens are. Now we're going to do something at the end. So I want to make this image a little bit over the top. So when I do the final maneuver, it'll still work. Adaptive saturation is probably fine where it is. Let me see. Yeah, it's maybe a little bit more. Okay. Brings the greens out a bit. I think we're pretty good. There you go. A little deeper greens. Not bad. So now we're into, guess what? See, where is it? Oh, wait a minute. Local adjustments, exactly. We're going to go back into here again. I'm sorry. Finishing touches into diffusion. And then push the softness all the way up. And this still isn't the end. There's one more move after this. Here's where it gets good. See it? It's getting that glow, that soft thing going on. And I'm pushing this up just because I think it'll do so. There it is. Add a little more contrast to the side of the trees. That's what we want. So now we're ready for our last step. We're going to say, okay. Now I'm going to do a texture blend here. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail because it's my third party. It's too much to explain. But I'll explain to you where I got it. It's very inexpensive. I'm going to put that texture over top of this image because I want the background to change a bit more. So I use a script by a gentleman named Uwe Steinmuller. Don't write it down. I'll send it to you if you want. But it's right here. And what that does, it applies a texture, boom, to the image. The good thing about it, and what's excellent about it, is that if you go to your layers, you will see every step that's involved in this action. So it gives you a lot of control, total control over the image, actually. Anything with underscore 01 applies to the image. Levels, hue, saturation. Anything underscore 02 applies to our texture, and that's where we're going to go. The levels master is the one that gets most of the work because it has the most gap in here. So we're going to merely just bring this down. And that's our deal. Just like that. Gives you a little darker blue sky, a little texture up here, which is kind of nice. Now, when we go back to our layers and close this down, we can say 2/3 opacity. And that's our basic deal. If I hold down Option and click the bottom eyeball here, we have the original. Big difference. And then we added this, and then we added the texture. And what else? Oh yeah, one more quick thing. Let's flatten this, and I'll do one quick Photoshop maneuver, well, two actually. The things that I look for, that I critique, and that I watch for my own work are things at the edges. Part of a fence post right here has got to go away. So I'll use Content Aware. I'll pick the lasso tool and just lasso right here. And using keystrokes, for example, Shift Delete, and Content Aware comes up. You hit OK, and click on the image, and that goes away. And then we're over here. I don't like how this kind of feathers out right at the end. It doesn't look right. It's just too narrow for too long. It's too narrow for too long in here. Hit letter C, and then I'll just crop this in to where it makes more sense to me, which is right around in here. And hit return, and then we'll hit get rid of the crop, and then we'll hit letter F. And that's all that I have, Nicole. That's pretty much it, folks.
All right. Well, that was a lot, so thank you. It's a ton of information.
I thought I lost you there. What happened?
Awesome.
I thought I lost you there. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. It takes me a minute to unmute myself. I was just saying that that was a lot of information, so thank you. We have a lot of positive feedback coming through already. So.
Oh, I'm glad. Thank you.
Yes. We have a ton of questions as well. if you have any questions too, you can just type them into your questions module on your GoToWebinar panel. All right, I'm just going to start at the top here. I've had quite a few people, actually just a couple, I think it was Marty and Philip, ask if you use Lightroom, and then I believe Philip expanded. He said, do you do anything in Lightroom before going into Adjust, and is he wasting his time by making adjustments first in Lightroom and then going to Adjust 5? So people are asking about Lightroom.
Okay, well, I hate to be a party pooper here, but I don't use Lightroom. I use Aperture. I use Aperture. I'm sorry.
That's okay too. We have a ton of Aperture users. Everybody has their own thing.
Sure, sure.
All right. We have a few people asking if you work with a tablet. I'm just going to kind of ask you some technical stuff first.
Sure.
Do you use a tablet?
That's easy. Yes, I've used one for years, and I use a mouse. It depends on whether I'm browsing the web or working on a picture. But when you want to get precise, your tablet is the only answer. If you don't have one, get one. It's a very short learning curve, and it'll make your life a lot easier, believe me.
Cool. All right. For your waterfall shot that you showed us, we had a couple of people asking what kind of neutral density filter you used, whether it was a graduated one, and then what the shutter speed was on your waterfall shot, that second image we were looking at.
Sure, sure. That's a lip. It isn't that tall. It's a small cascade that we all know where to go at that time of year at a certain time of day. There's no filter used. The water's running fast enough where about a half a second at f22 is enough to get, the water's flowing very rapidly. There's no need for any kind of ND at all. Do I use split grads? I do use split grads. I didn't need one there, but I do use them. They result in a more natural looking image. Shooting scenics in HDR is kind of tricky, and I love HDR, but like anything else, it's the right tool for the right job. And in landscape photography, I find that using the split grads, hard and soft edges, and even putting them together, have like a 3-stop soft edge and a 2-stop hard edge together sometimes will work. I find that to be a more natural way to photograph landscapes.
Nice, thanks. All
Sure.
right, on to that next image, the infrared image that you had. We had a ton of feedback on that. They loved the image and
thank you.
wanted to know kind of what your technical things that we were using, if you had converted a camera, if you have any recommendations on whether it has to be a certain type of resolution if you do want to convert a digital camera and that kind of stuff.
Basic deal on infrared is that I've got a converted camera. It is literally impossible to get software to see true infrared. It's a bit more to it than just turning green and red to certain shades of white. Let me say that I've got a converted D300 because you can focus through live view with that, which helps a lot because infrared focusing is a little bit tricky. And let's see what else. There's 2 companies that convert. Life Pixel is one, and Digital Silver Imaging is the other one. You might want. They're both excellent. If you need it in a hurry, just see which one can do it for you quicker. Because there's quite a high demand for IR conversions these days for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
Was there more about that? I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay. That answered a lot of it right there. I know that, I believe it was, let's see here, I think it was Laura who was asking about if there's a certain megapixel size camera that you suggest or that you know is going to work better. Or
Oh, not at all. That's a function of your conversion. People use a lot of friends have like a G9s, G10s. Really good point and shoot cameras are good for infrared. It depends on what you want resolution. I've got friends who have the D800E converted for IR. That's a bit extreme for me, but it's up to you. A lot of cameras will work. A lot of the good point and shoots will be great infrared cameras. Only if the company will not convert every camera on Earth. So you've got to see which ones they'll convert. And before you buy one, especially a point and shoot, make sure that it's convertible through one of those two companies.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
All right, as you were going over the black and white image of the interior of that barn, we had quite a few people asking whether you see a benefit to adding contrast and color saturations before going into the black and white conversion.
If that were, yes, no, that's a good point. If that were more of a colorful shot, yes, I would max out the color. I would make it a finished color image to get the richest color possible. That way, when you convert, all those tones convert to your black and white tones much more richly. And that particular shot's almost monochromatic. It's just a wooden barn. There's no color in there at all, really. So it didn't really matter that much. That was more a picture of contrast and light more than color. But as I said, if it's a color image that you want to convert and say it's colorful, I would get a finished, maxed out color shot first and then take it into black and white conversion software.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
Okay, lots of stuff about the texture image that we're looking at here.
Oh, good.
Yes, we have, I'm not sure if you went over this because I was answering questions, but
sure.
Carrie asked where you got the scripts to run textures.
Okay, that's from a gentleman called Uwe Steinmuller. I think it costs around $24. It's a single script that's for sale from his website. If you want that, can I advertise here a little bit, Nicole?
Absolutely.
If you want it, drop me an email. I will send you the express link to the page because I promise you that you will never find it on your own.
And actually, Tony, if you want to send that to me, I'll include it in the follow-up email so everybody will just have it who came to the session.
That'd be very nice. That'd be very nice. Thank you.
Yeah, not a problem. And everybody, I'll be including all of Tony's information here at the end of the session and in the follow-up email. So if you do want to shoot him a message about the session, you'll have that information there too.
Appreciate that.
Let's see here. Okay, lots of stuff about where you got the textures.
Well, I'll send that link to you. It's there's several places to get them. That's a company called Flypaper Texture. They're kind of the top dog in texture land right now, and they have several sets. They're all extremely well crafted, and they work well together. They're very good at picking textures that work. Extremely good.
Great, yes, and I'll include that too, so thank you for that.
Thank you. I'll send it to you also.
I have a question from Kevin asking, does Tony use Topaz plugins before or after any changes in Photoshop? So as far as your normal workflow goes, like what you do in Photoshop and then where you put Topaz into it, can you explain kind of?
It's what I did right here.
Okay.
Those are raw files. They go into a plugin land first. If I need textures, that's where I go in the photo. My Photoshop work is very, very minimal.
Okay, cool. Peggy asked, which infrared filter did you convert your camera to? She sees that there are some different choices.
Well, there are. I've got the super color conversion, and I use an infrared filter. And let me say a little bit more about that. The color conversion, the super color, through LifePixel, I think also through a digital silver imaging, will allow you to, if you want, mix infrared color, like color infrared. I'm sure you've seen shots with a blue sky and white trees. That's that conversion. That'll let you do that if you want. What I tend to do is, because when you have a lot of color in infrared, you can go in and like tweak each color and create more gradations of your infrared tonality. So it's much, much deeper, much richer. There is a learning curve like anything else, but that's the idea. And the infrared filter, all cameras have infrared light leak. They all have hot mirrors that actually try to block all the infrared, but the light will find a way. And there is light leak of infrared light in your camera. So putting on we use the Singh Ray, what's called an iRay filter. On the lens of a color camera, not a converted camera. I use that on my D800 when I want just pure white infrared. It looks like film, actually. What's film? Anyway, just kidding. Anyway, yeah, what is film? I forgot. But the exposures are a bit longer, which is great if you have moving clouds. You can have like cloud streaks and like bright white trees. It's very, very unique look. And my standard exposure for that is something like on a bright sunny day now. On a bright sunny day, ISO 640 at f8 at 4 minutes. ISO 640 at f8 at 4 minutes. That will give you infrared. If you have cloud movement, it'll record the movement across the sky. If you have water, it'll smooth the water out. It's a very, very different look when you shoot infrared at that long of an exposure. So that's my two basic methods for shooting infrared.
Okay, thanks for going through that.
Oh, sure. I was going to take up too much time, you know.
Also, I had some people asking if you use what your preference is, JPEG or RAW.
Oh, it's been RAW from the beginning, absolutely.
Okay.
Now let me explain something real quick here. You know, if you photograph weddings or high volume events, you want to shoot JPEG fine, no question. JPEGs, you know, high quality JPEGs are like film. When you press the button, you're pretty much done. So you want to get it right in the camera, and then you can process them very quickly. The more you work a JPEG, the more it degrades. For nature or things that I have time to spend time with, I'll shoot RAW. I might have like 100 shots from a trip rather than like 5,000 from a wedding. So it's a very different paradigm. For nature, scenics, things that I care about, image for image, I'll shoot those in RAW. If I were doing an event with people, I'll shoot JPEG fine, no question.
Okay, thanks for going through that, because I know a lot of people ask, a lot what are the pros and cons of each one. I think
you don't want to process 5,000 shots of a wedding.
Yeah, in RAW.
That's right, in RAW, exactly.
All right, well, thank you so much. I am going to go ahead and stop you there. We have a ton of great feedback from this, and again, everybody, I have recorded it.
Thanks.
And I am going to steal it back from you, Tony. And
well, let me just say real quick that I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to everybody, and thanks for showing up. And Nicole, you're great as usual, and thank you and Topaz very much.
Well, thank you. And actually, I had several people ask about your training that you do outside of this type of stuff. So if you could talk about that as I steal the screen back from you, that'll be great.
Sure, no problem. We teach location workshops. We have two kinds right now. Next year will be one kind. We're filled up this year. Next year, we have a few openings in workshops this year. But in general, we'll go shoot in the morning, have class time and critiques in the afternoon, and then, depending on where we are, go out and do a quick afternoon shoot. And then we repeat that for 3 days. So you're getting critiqued every day, do a lot of software demo, and we take this very seriously as a learning experience for you guys. So we take a lot of time to critique, talk about your work, and make sure that you leave with what you want.
Awesome, thank you. And you can find out all of those workshops, days, and sessions at his website, tonysweet.com. And you can also follow Tony at facebook.com, and I believe it's tony.sweet. And then twitter.com is ttsweet. So
I've got a blog. Please talk to me. I get lonely out there.
All right, so contact him through the blog. Thank you so much again, Tony. This has been great.
It's my pleasure as always, and thank you very much, Nicole.
Absolutely. We'll be talking to everybody soon. Thanks for joining us. Bye-bye.